بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The events in Gaza have really been painful and hurtful for all of us. No Muslim can stand idle while their brothers, sisters, children are butchered. However, we as Muslims must not and should not allow pain and hurt to dictate our decision making or control and direct our inclinations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us decisively and definitively, as explained by Him subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran in Surah An-Nisa in verse 104, وَلَا تَهِنُوا فِي ابْتِغَاءِ الْقَوْمِ إِن تَكُونُوا تَأْلَمُونَ فَإِنَّهُمْ يَأْلَمُونَ كَمَا تَأْلَمُونَ وَتَرْجُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَرْجُونَ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. And do not weaken in pursuit of the enemy. If you should be suffering, so are they suffering as you are suffering. But you expect from Allah that which they do not expect, and Allah is ever knowing and wise. Allah tells us in this ayah that from an emotional perspective, they hurt like we hurt. But we strive for something they don't. We strive for Ridwan Allah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's acceptance. Therefore, we must move from being emotionally driven as a result of the earth-shuddering genocide and butchery of infants, children and women and the vulnerable and the defensive brothers in Gaza and the West Bank, to strive intellectually towards what we seek and they don't, which is Ridwan Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's acceptance. Inshallah, over the next few posts, I will demonstrate several lessons that must shape our thinking and enable us to use the vital energy generated by our instincts and needs to awaken and reactivate our thoughts and revive this ummah. The first of the learnings and the first of the lessons is that Gaza is a seismic event, not only for the geopolitics of the Middle East, but also for the entire ummah, and a threat to the treasonous and the munafiq of our time, the rulers and their power centers and supporters. It is also a seismic event for the kafir, their idea and thoughts. Gaza is the Furqan of our time, of our generation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Furqan in several ayat in the Quran. In Surah Al-Anfal, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِن تَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ فُرْقَانًا. O you who believe, if you fear Allah, He will grant you a attested evidence and proof and conclusive evidence. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, يَوْمَ الْفُرْقَانِ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجُمْعَانِ. On the day of the Furqan, on the day of decisiveness, on the day of Burhan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the two armies met, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it the day of decisiveness. So Al-Furqan in the Quran is understood by three combined words in Arabic. It is the Burhan, which is the authoritativeness and the attested evidence, which is Al-Bayyinah, and also Al-Fasila, conclusive and final. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Arabic language, when He uses these terminologies, He uses them for a very specific purpose. And here we know that it is authoritative, attested evidence, and conclusive and final. And this is because Gaza, without doubt, authoritatively and decisively demonstrated that this is a war on Muslims because of their aqidah. Netanyahu wrote that this is the war for Western civilization against the barbarians. The Crusaders, Biden, Macron, Sunak, Schultz, etc. agreed and made their journey and sent their battleships, troops and money to support the cursed usurper, Al-Ghasib al-Mal'un. Gaza is also Al-Furqan because it distinguishes, differentiates and separates and makes comprehensible the haqq, the truth, from al-batil, the falsehood. That international law, the rule of law, humanitarian law, the UN Security Council, Geneva Convention, freedoms, self-determination are all false idols. They are the idols of this generation. They are designed to maintain the control of the colonialist, white, supremacist settlers in power and in control, and to subjugate the Muslims. It also definitively described and explained that the rulers are mere agents for the West and have committed high treason against the Ummah. Gaza is also al-Furqan because it has enabled the discernment of al-Haqq and al-Batil. Gaza has shown us the result of making the Aqidah the foundation of training and culturing of the Mujahid, compared to the secular nationalist Aqidah of the armies in Muslim lands who pledged their allegiance to protect the Sykes-Picot flags, the dirt they call nation states, and the rulers who have subjugated us. Gaza is also the Furqan because it disentangled truth from falsehood, enabling the Ummah to judge and determine that the rulers of Muslim lands are the first line of defense for the cursed usurper and their false entity. This is why Gaza is al-Furqan, and this is why it's a seismic moment for the Ummah, which we must build upon and seize to re-establish Islam as a way of life, to regain our dignity, to regain our independence, and to make sure that the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reigns supreme over this earth. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and may Allah support our brothers and sisters in Palestine and everywhere where they fight to raise the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make that supreme. Jazakumullah khair wa barakallahu feekum.